For the South African energy industry to remain sustainable and prosperous, the industry is faced with addressing various challenges related to sustainability, ownership, and transformation. Having been through these challenges ourselves and having developed a very clear understanding of the pressures that face those working in the industry, PetroConnect was founded with the vision of playing a proactive role in helping all players in the industry to join forces and become empowered.
At PetroConnect, we collectively want to be a part of the industry-wide solutions that are required of us all at this time. Our aim is to partner with you as either an aspiring entrant or an established dealer in this fast-paced industry. We'll empower you with the right skills and offer the best solutions to make your business a success. For new fuel retail aspirants, starting out in a new industry can bring with it challenges and uncertainty. PetroConnect is well equipped to show you the ins and outs of the industry, so you can proactively gauge your interest and suitability. For dealers, we can assist with selling their site or finding the right ownership partner. With our comprehensive services in legal, labour, staff training, back office management and accounting, we resolve many challenges a dealer may face.
PetroConnect is a practical, solutions-driven intervention that can help solve and streamline the challenges we are all facing in the industry at the moment. We really believe that only by bringing everyone in the energy industry together can we effectively lead the industry into a more prosperous and sustainable future. PetroConnect, powering the energy industry. Very good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's lovely to see all of you in the screens. We just wish that we could be seeing you live, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely have to do something live soon. I think that's been the request soon, to have something live. We'll have to get Sbonelo to put up some budget just to do a little cocktail dinner or some proper coffee. But we hope you've got your coffee with you at least.
The problem with you is that you keep forgetting that I'm black and black people don't have money.
No, they've got money now. That's why I'm saying you need to pay.
So we do trust that you guys can hear us on the other side. You know, the amazing thing about these things is that when you speak, you actually speak to yourself and just hoping that somebody on the other hand can hear you. But we've got top technicians right in the house here, so we have no reason to believe that you probably are not hearing us. Thank you so much once again for taking your time to tune in this morning. Mark and I always just love to share information and insights, particularly to most of you that are fairly new in the industry. We didn't have people that shared this information with us, and perhaps we could have done quite well had we started on a good note like that.
We would have been rich by now.
I actually think so.
It's just great to be able to share some of what we've learned, some of the things that are happening in the industry, and yeah, it's for everyone. And we want to just keep having these and hosting these just to share. It's nothing, we want that Q&A as well, so that you're able to ask your questions. Bring back those questions as you're going along, and even if it's maybe not even totally related to exactly what we're speaking about, it's good to bring those questions so that we can do it in this kind of platform, so that even those on the line may be able to answer the questions. So we rather make it a conversation rather than just one-sided.
So interesting you say that, because I think for us it's just to spark the conversation, and some of you are already, there's some questions you already have, and in most cases you probably wouldn't want to answer or ask those questions because we didn't touch on them. So I know that you've got some questions. Some of you are thinking, is this industry still relevant? You're hearing a lot of negative stuff, in the media, dealers complaining about margins, and some of you that are actually, I think there could be some of you that are still looking into buying, investing, and perhaps you starting to fear a little bit now as to, whether this is the right move or not. Maybe just to, as we're about to kick off, our presentation is probably talking mostly to, the real operational stuff, cash flows and the likes. It's depends how you look at it, but we just want to show you a lot more about what's happening, how are the real effects of the petrol price, how is this going to affect your cash flows. You've probably heard of this, but we thought in this platform we're able to just zoom in and be able to entertain, some of your questions. Some of you may have attended FRA conference 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. It's already 2
Yeah.
weeks.
So there was sort of like a touch and go in some of these things, and you're probably just hearing people complaining about margins, complaining about deregulation, and some of you don't really know exactly what this means. And the purpose really for today is to dissect this into like as lay as possible so that you can have a better understanding on how these changing landscapes are going to potentially affect your business. So, to kickstart, we're saying, why so much fuss about deregulation? Most of you have been hearing in the media, perhaps you heard us in the media as well, be it TV, be it on newspapers, where, we're starting to just warn the government about deregulation. First and foremost, are we being deregulated? The answer is not really, not quite. So we're not there yet. However, we are seeing that the government is slowly trying to introduce and make moves to getting us to that deregulation space. The problem with that, though, is that so if we are deregulated, and one of the things that we are warning against is that you are unleveling the playing field. So the moment we deregulate, maybe firstly, Mark, I don't know if you can just explain what does regulation mean so that we can understand deregulation. Yeah.
So, South Africa has been very much in a regulated environment from a petrol perspective. So, the industry is very much regulated, licensing, et cetera, et cetera. So, we're not going to go into too much detail on that. But if we look at petrol, that is regulated. You know what your margin is going to be. When you go from service station to service station, they've got to charge the same price, obviously depending on zones and depending on what region you're in. The petrol price has to be the same. So your margin is guaranteed. You're not going to have the person down the road charging 10 cents less, and I'm now competing with Sbonelo next to me at a service station close by. Whereas diesel is completely deregulated, where you can charge anything for your diesel. So I could get it at a certain cost price. I can charge it at anything on my selling price. I can make 10 cents margin. I can make 4 rand margin. It really all comes down to competition then, and how you kind of govern the regulation, or how you govern your price. Where we're seeing the changes now is more like the petrol side, but not going complete deregulation. We don't even have a name for it, because it's not deregulation. It's the worst form of deregulation, because it's capping. Yeah. Maybe we can just look at capping as to what that includes.
So I think we'll get there quickly, but I think for me it was just to understand, because in most cases when you start talking about deregulation, a lot of people don't even understand that we are in a regulated space, right? So the good things about being regulated are, number one, you are protected, So you wouldn't have a case of having some Chinese company opening up next to you and selling fuel for half your price. It's never going to happen in South Africa. But the moment we go deregulation, there's nothing stopping that from happening. Many of you would know what happened in the clothing industry in South Africa. It's become history because there was no form of regulation for that industry. So we, as South Africans right now, are very lucky to be in a position where our industry is regulated, yeah? Now, why so much fuss about deregulation? Number one, deregulation is going to uneven the playing field, yeah? So what does this mean? So this means that the guys that are able to discount fuel and just make 10 cents a liter, 20 cents a liter, they will then kill the guys that can't because you can only discount up to so much. So basically your bigger service stations will literally monopolize that particular area and the smaller sites will literally close down. That's basically what will happen.
And I think, obviously, the fact that if you're heavily encumbered, it adds fuel to the fire.
That's just worse. And that is where I think, when we made our presentations to government, we're saying we are in a big, transformation drive right now. And most of the people that are buying the service stations are either 80% geared, 90% geared, but basically they owing a lot of money to the bank for the next 5 years. And guess what? When you did your cash flows, you worked on the fixed margin, yeah? On a 2 Rand 28 or a 1 Rand 64, whatever the case is, but it was a fixed margin that's guaranteed. It didn't factor that at some point you may have to discount that, because if you discount that, then the volumes need to compensate for that.
And the volumes aren't necessarily, you're not gaining a lot of volume to a specific area. It's just going to shift volumes.
Exactly.
So now the service stations are just playing off against each other rather than volume being added to the area and having to increase your volumes. Because if we can increase volumes, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's obviously why we do diesel discounting, because you do that calculation to say, if I do 20 cents diesel discounting, I need to gain X amount of volume in order to sustain that. Many sites do, for example, Sunday discounting.
Yeah.
Slice the price by 50 cents, 60 cents. But you got to make sure that on that particular day that you are going to be seeing that increase, obviously, in volumes to be able to sustain that particular margin decrease.
Yeah. That's a different one altogether, because I've always wondered whether dealers who actually discount diesel on particular days, do they even calculate? Do they even go to check that now that I've discounted my my diesel, for example, do the volumes on that particular day make up for the discount, that I've given away? So yeah, what's the whole fuss about deregulation is that one, it unevens the playing field, yeah. But number two,
sustainability.
Yeah.
The sustainability and the long-term sustainability.
Yeah. You see, because when you start discounting, right, even the value of the business, in certain instances, that's why I said earlier on that most service stations will actually close down. The smaller sites, in my view, I think the sites that, your 200,000 pumpers, your 150,000 pumpers will never, ever be able to compete. They'll never. Your 500,000 pumper will be able to slash their price by like a 50 cents or something like that, and they'll be okay. But the smaller guy will never be able to. But again, not only the sustainability of the business itself, but even the job sustainability, because when those service stations close down, unfortunately, the jobs are also lost. And of course, the third one is, those of you that have been in the industry long enough will know that there's always a fight between retailers and oil companies when it comes to res matrix, when it comes to how much they can, claw back from res and all that. Now, while res is not totally regulated, but it's still a very good framework for us to work on. And in most cases, that's what we use to ensure that the margins are protected. So the moment that we go deregulation, nobody will intervene in whatsoever. And so the oil companies may just claw back a lot more.
I think you always got to be careful, when dealing with something like deregulation, because there's so many stakeholders.
Yeah.
So there's many stakeholders that are having input into this, and I think many of them are saying just leave the way it is. In fact, we are, as retailers, are under, we're actually not gaining every bit of margin that we should be gaining, and we're undercompensated from a margin perspective. So oil companies, I think right now, obviously are watching the space, but we also need to watch the space very carefully.
So there's also another, of course, topic that's big topic about petrol prices.
What are we looking at now? I think yesterday I was having a look at your fuel price change. I mean, we're over R2 at the moment in terms of outlook for next month.
Yeah, but that also, there's still a 75 cents that will be added on that. So we're likely going to see over R2.50 increase next month, yeah?
So remember, we got this fuel price change that's coming, which is the normal price change, and obviously, the rand dollar has been a little bit, hasn't been performing the best over this past month. Yeah. There's been quite a lot of happening in the US, especially at the moment. So there's a lot of threat on the rand, and then you've got the oil price that just continues to be mad. But now that means that price has to go up, but then you've got this R1.50 elephant in the room in terms of taxes that needs to come back. And government has said last month they're bringing 75 cents back this month.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
It's still going to get worse before it gets better. But what are the real effects of these fuel increases? And I think, we thought let's just dive into this a little bit more so that you can have a better understanding. Because believe it or not, there are still people who believe that, petrol prices benefit, or rather high petrol prices benefit retailers. So we just try and zoom into this more. So we're going to touch on one of the effects will be increased bank charges and CDF, that's cash deposit fees, yeah? We'll also touch on the increased insurance premiums, decrease in volumes, decrease in profitability, and increase in drive-offs. Now, this just shows you how the price of petrol has gone up over the last 18 months, yeah? Starting from January 2021 right up to June currently, you can see that graph. We're starting somewhere around the 15 Rand mark, right up to the 24 Rand. That's where we are currently. And this accounts to a 41% increase.
I don't think anyone really gets that, because I think it's... We keep saying price of fuel has really increased over the past 2 years, but 41% is where we're sitting. Yeah. Very few people's salaries and income has gone up 41%,
If my business would have gone up by 41%, I would be retired by now.
Yeah, no, we would have been happy.
I promise you.
Yeah.
So imagine fuel price going up 41% in 18 months. Now, that is unheard of. Nobody would have predicted something like that to ever happen, Now, what is the real effect then? So I'm just going to give you, so let's just give you a typical 300,000 pumper. Okay, that's sort of like an average service station, yeah? Most of the service stations, are around that sort of like a bracket. And let's assume that this service station, the split between the credit cards, debit cards, and cash, right? So you've got your 300,000. Obviously, people are paying. How are they paying? So we assume that 30% are going to pay by credit cards. We'll assume that 30% are going to pay by debit cards. And we're going to assume that 40% are going to pay by cash, right? So we still put a lot more on cash because we're in South Africa, obviously. But again, this is dependent on where the service station is. So these could change slightly depending on the LSM and the likes.
Yeah, the splits are obviously very much dependent on the service station. So we kind of have looked at this from a split of a 30-30, 40. Credit cards obviously attracting higher percentage, debit cards attracting a slightly lower percentage. And in terms of CDF, cash deposit fee, you look at that per 100. Now, if you look at these bank charges, having that massive change in terms of your fees, that means your profitability has seen that massive decrease overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight. I mean, okay, we're talking a year that we've seen this massive increase in credit card charges, but it's not that your profitability has gone up. Remember that credit card charges is undercompensated on the RAS margin by 12 cents?
Yeah. Well, it was 12 cents ban back then. So
we're a little bit higher now.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just look into this, so if you do the numbers, so we actually did a lot of workings on this in the background. I just don't want to bore you with the details, but trust this, But in 2021, Jan, bank charges were 41,000 Rand. So that's what you were paying last year, January. This year, June, if we apply that split, you are now paying 58,000 Rand. You didn't grow your volumes. You didn't grow any profitability for that matter. You are just pumping the same volumes. People are paying the same way they've been paying last year. And this has, shot up to like a 58,000, which is a 17,000 Rand more.
Yeah, Sbonelo, you're depressing me now.
I'm telling you.
We're in the wrong business. We're hoping some bank representatives are on the line now, so we know.
Exactly, because you know why? You know why this is important? Because I actually think, you and I know we've engaged the banks, in this discussion. One of the reasons that we're engaging the banks is to say every pricing model, or most of the pricing models that these institutions have, they factor what you call CPI, right? Annual increases, whether it's 7%, it's 10% every year, right? So that's how they do it. If it's your cash deposit fees, they're going to start you on a 21 cents or a 25 cents. Every year they apply CPI, and you probably are sitting on a 33 cents now, right? But what they don't realize is that just by increasing, or rather, the fuel prices, they've already gotten their increase. They've got their 41% increase already.
So perhaps for the retailers that are on the call, I think that the good exercise for you to do is just to go back, have a look at that invoice. It could be a PetroConnect, whoever it is. Have a look at that invoice from now and what it was
last year. Yeah.
Because naturally that would see the CPI, but naturally now it's just increasing because of the fact that you are taking more cash.
Yeah.
Remember, your volumes, the decrease hasn't been exactly the same as that. If your volumes have decreased, let's say, for example, my volumes have decreased by 50,000 litres at a site.
Yeah.
Naturally, my expenses like that should decrease. But if you go and look at that invoice, and those invoices are the same or similar, clearly it's showing you that expense has stayed the same, but my volumes have gone down, which means, of course, I'm taking cash, but it's purely, let me stop there before we get murdered.
Because honestly speaking, your business profitability has literally shrunk, just like that, if you factor a 17,000, we do valuations. So in most cases, we look at this in the entire, broad scale, how much does an extra 17,000 a month contribute to the value of your business if you were to sell? And you'd be shocked if we were to do those numbers. You'd be very shocked that this could easily slash a good 300,000, in fact, 400,000 off the value of your business, you know?
So I think it's always good to take it a step back and say, well, what are we doing? What is everyone else doing about this? Because I suppose it's always easy to talk about challenges without there being solutions.
Yeah.
So I think it's as Sbonelo said. I mean, we've engaged with the right stakeholders on this, and there's definitely an understanding. And I think there's you watch the space. We're hoping that is going to be something, and
Yeah.
even a conversation that I had this morning was that there is a move in the right direction there. But we have to look at costs of things like the safe cost, the cash deposit cost. What is it costing you on your devices now? How do we safeguard those devices? Because remember, you've got speed point devices that cost between 5,000 and 10,000 rand, depending on the service provider, that has to be insured. So we've had to look at that as well to say, well, can those costs come down a little bit from the banks, from
Yeah.
different service providers? Not only banks, there are service providers in this industry too. So,
Yeah.
from that side, there are solutions that are kind of being looked at, but we kind of just want to give you that other side of it as to get your minds thinking a little bit on the other side of how this really looks like at the moment. We'll paint the picture.
So just when you thought that was the worst thing, and many of you would have started to receive those love letters from your insurance companies or from the oil companies that are saying, please, we need to revise your fuel guarantee, yeah? Because when many of you would have enjoyed, when the oil companies gave you like a 500,000 fuel guarantee, and you are literally just paying, I don't know, what do you pay on 500,000? You're probably paying like, under 1,000 or something, around about that per month, to say as a premium for a fuel guarantee. But right now, most oil companies are pushing for a 1.2, 1.5 million fuel guarantee, and that's actually going to push your premiums by at least 50%, yeah. So I was actually chatting to one oil company yesterday. In fact, it's one of our clients who was requested to double their fuel guarantee because the oil company is seeing that the price of fuel has gone up so much, and they need to safeguard themselves to ensure that should anything go pear-shaped, they can recoup something.
I mean, guarantee is always going to be necessary on a service station. It's just that's how it's going to be. It's obviously still cheaper to have a fuel guarantee than it is to have the cash sitting in the bank as a bank guarantee. So bank guarantee being more the cash is sitting with the bank and they provide the guarantee to the oil company, and the fuel guarantee is sitting through an insurer such as one. Where the guarantee is provided to the oil company. You sit on anything between 2.5% and 4.5% of the value that you sit as a premium.
Yeah.
So, really your premiums naturally will increase. Of course, the books and the bookkeeping done of that business and how your accounting is looking and the running and operation of the site depend on how the guarantee percentage is governed. So they look at the business, look at the running of the business, they look at the books, they understand what their risk is. So obviously, the riskier the business is, the more that the guarantor has to charge, which is natural. So it goes without saying, you need to be in control of your site, control of operations, and being as clean as possible.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying that your premiums to insure your cash. Remember that you're collecting all this cash. So if the price of fuel was 15, 16 rand in 18 months, it's now 24 rand. You are now collecting more cash, meaning that you need to insure this cash because you can't expose yourself. In the case of robbery or anything happening, you shouldn't be found wanting. So that means that's an extra expense as well, where you now need to pay more. And cash is expensive. Cash is one of the most expensive items to insure.
I think your key thing is always making sure and asking the questions if you're ever signing a contract with anyone in terms of cash or your safe. Is the cash in the safe insured end to end? So from the time it hits the safe until the time it hits your bank account, is it insured? So as it leaves the doors of your store, is it that someone robs at the forecourt or robs the van as it's driving? Make sure that you're insured there. But is it an extra cost? So before you sign the contract, understand whether it's an extra cost that you're going to need to put with your insurer. Because many times the CRT or the person or the company that's doing the safe will cover that cost. In other cases, they won't, and that's where this is now in the spotlight. The same as the safe. Is the safe covered by your insurance or is it covered by the service provider? It's a big one because that premium is becoming more and more if it's not covered by the service provider. So the service provider could say to you, the cost of the safe is 250,000 Rand. You have to now go to your insurer and your broker to say, please add this to my policy. That's an extra cost to you.
Yeah.
And obviously with increases in heists and increases in bombings and so on at sites, you've got to be careful of that. So just ask those right questions. So you've got that negotiation that you need to have with the service provider.
Guys, let me just say this, and I hope many of you are listening with your pens or whether you're making notes on your iPad or your phone or something, but please, as we talk through these, some of these will trigger you, to think, because many of you don't know, you're not even sure what you're insured for and for how much. So as we go through these, I need you to listen with an action in mind. Don't just listen like you're watching a soapy or something,
Sbonelo actually reminds me of being in a soapy though sometimes. So it's generations have called him once before for an audition.
So I need you guys to just start taking notes, because for me, insurance was a by the way kind of a thing, when I was like, it was more of a, it's something that I needed to do to satisfy the oil company or to satisfy someone. But when riots happened, I have never seen so much value in insurance than I have seen now. I promise you, I've literally gone line by line on my insurance policy just to make sure that I am properly covered for any eventuality. I used to see insurance as an expense.
It's a grudge. Yeah.
But I promise you, I'm converted now. I'm converted. My broker used to say, no, don't underinsure yourself. There's like your gross profitability insurance, whatever cover, your fidelity cover, and all those kind of things. I used to say, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But when it happens, you actually see the value of being properly insured. So guys, please make sure that you are covered, okay? Make sure you're covered. If you are not sure, we're here. We don't mind you sending your insurance, what do you call that thing?
Yeah, the policy.
The policy schedule. Send it through to us and say, look, guys, I don't understand this. Can you just help me to make sure that I am properly covered? And I know we're busy, but we can try to assist you.
And I think that's to look at you being properly covered and that the premiums are properly put together too.
Exactly,
so you've got to be with the right company. You've got to be correctly covered. You've got to look at your premiums. And then obviously, SASRIA cover is obviously very important as well. And what are the inclusions? What are the exclusions? So things like your gross income protection, that becomes incredibly important if there's something that goes wrong. The floods, the riots, a road changing, a road washing away. Those things are incredibly important when it comes to gross income protection. I mean, I was chatting to a retailer the other day, and they have quite a large service station. They've never had to claim in the last 15 years, and they haven't got gross income protection. And it unfortunately all went wrong during the floods. And sadly now they're seeing the site is just dropped completely, and obviously roads washed away. They could have claimed on that. So you've got to make sure that you're correctly covered. It's not a cheap insurance, but it's a necessity really at the end of the day. I think the last point on this was really, I think we're seeing it more and more. Yesterday I got another letter from another company that's now wanting to increase their fuel, or rather increase the fees of what they're charging, or their retainer, but they are naming it as a fuel fee. So it's basically an extra 30 Rand on the premium
I saw that
due to the fact that, unfortunately, there's a fuel price that they know that it's not going away. You hope they'll take it away when fuel price does normalize. But that is a big thing with CRT, and obviously you've got CRT fees in terms of safety, but the CRT is just one of those suppliers that is adding on fuel costs. So always make sure that you look at that even when you're setting prices in the store. You've got to remember now that there's a GP that you need to achieve in the store, but if there are now added extra costs, that now needs to be factored in when setting your GP. So don't only look at it as the cost price of my, let's use an example, a bottle of milk. Okay, there's a bottle of milk that costs you 10 Rand. But now, you don't now only look at that 10 Rand if there's a separate line item for a fuel levy. Because a lot of the service providers are not factoring it into the cost of the product, but rather as a separate line item. And the reason they're doing that is obviously just show the retailer or who they're providing to say, hey, it's not our product that's gone up, it's not our supplies that have gone up, it's the fuel that's gone up.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I mean, still on the insurance thing, you are probably going to be seeing a lot more of these notices, Mark.
I mean, these notices are going to come up, and I think it's sadly a necessary thing.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more drive-offs at service stations. I think the control measures that you're taking on site now just need to be that much more heightened. Your staff need to be that much more aware. And again, that's a change in the fuel retail landscape. It's a change in the country which has then affected the fuel retail landscape, because in the past, fuel prices not as bad, crime not as bad, unemployment not as bad. Those are all things that have now affected fuel retail.
Yeah.
What steps do we have to take? We have to make sure that staff are properly trained on what measures to take when a vehicle comes in at night. And again, this is just an example of a notice. Due to an increase in driveaways, we may request for the payment for your fuel up front. So it could mean when you get to the service station, you give me your keys before you fill up. Because I'm not sure whether you're going to drive away without paying for my fuel. And I mean, I had one 2 nights ago, another one that we had.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole thing is so well rehearsed and put together, and it's sort of so real that you believe the guys before you fill. And unfortunately, now I need to take these measures.
I think it's becoming more and more prevalent. I see that one of the sites that had an incident about 2-3 weeks ago, I see them on the line. I'm not going to say which site it is, but I saw a petrol attendant with a brick running after this vehicle and throwing a brick in the back window, because that's really, it's becoming hard. It's becoming very, very hard right now. We obviously we can't dictate to you what to do in your businesses, but we can just let you know that you're going to see a lot more of these, and you need to start putting measures in place. Whether, you at night perhaps, because most of these happen at night.
Yep.
If 90,
2 in the morning, 3 in the morning.
90%, 95% of them happen quite late. So you may want to introduce certain measures during night, perhaps, I don't know. But we're just wanting to let you know that this is not going to calm down anytime soon. It's still going to get worse.
I'd rather take the necessary measures now up front before you get caught, because it's better to just rather preventative and know that you're safe. Sometimes, obviously, you can't prevent some of these things. It's a natural thing of operating in South Africa. We have to take the necessary precautions. If you want to take Sponelo's advice on the brick, send us the videos as well, so that
I think I'm going to supply bricks now. Bricks for drive-offs.
I actually heard him yesterday saying to one of the managers, "No, you need a brick at each pump now. Just make sure that we're correctly prepared."
Yeah.
But yeah, please don't tell anyone that.
So, Mark, I think we spoke about insurance, and I know I didn't mean to touch on this, but now that we're talking about drive-offs, guys, one of the things that you have to make sure you are properly covered for is contamination. It's really, really, really becoming a lot more. It's important, because the problem is when you're training a new guy, doesn't know the difference between diesel and unleaded, and they put the wrong fuel in somebody's car, you are in a mess. And so just make sure that you're properly covered. The insurances do cover for such. Just make sure you're with the right insurance company. And if you are unsure, do reach out to us and we can guide you. We can make sure that you are properly covered for such things. Because again, some people take advantage. If that mistake happens, they're not going to allow you to take their vehicle to your mechanic, and they're going to tell you that take it to BMW, to Mercedes-Benz, to Range Rover, to Land Rover, rather. So, and the costs can be exorbitant, and then he tells you that I actually work with my car, and so I need you to hire me a car while the car is being serviced. And by the way, I was on my way to Joburg, if he's in Durban, and I need a car that's because I'm working, you know what I'm saying? So just imagine if you just fucking cash for all these things. It can be a nightmare. It can be an absolute nightmare. So just make sure that you're properly covered. I think the insurance companies would love me right now.
So, what can save us? Please don't give us all the negatives now, Sbonelo. We still need people to enjoy the industry.
I don't know, Mark. It's just becoming increasingly difficult, because the situation we're finding ourselves in South Africa, we've never knew that we'd find ourselves in this situation that we're in, because part of the problems that we're facing are political in nature.
Absolutely.
A lot of people say, yeah, but why don't we buy fuel from this country and that country? And there's a whole lot of politics around this. See, right now, as we speak, we've got Russia that is literally banned from a lot of European countries, US and the likes. We don't have an issue with Russia in South Africa, right? By the way, we belong to BRICS, okay? So some of you understand what that means. But we've got working relationships with Russia. Russia is one of the largest producers of oil. The reason our oil has shot up this way now is because of the sanctions that were imposed on Russia. We are not buying our fuel from Russia. We could actually potentially buy our fuel for maybe half the price if we actually bought it directly from Russia, because of our relationship that we've got. But if we do that, we piss off the Europeans and the US and everyone else that has actually imposed sanctions on Russia.
It's a balance.
It's a balance. It's a balance.
What do you do?
It's really difficult, but for the first time, I heard Minister of Minerals and Energy hinting that we may have to go direct and buy fuel from Russia. I can tell you, for me, as a user of fuel and not a politician, we could benefit quite a lot. I think South Africans would really benefit a lot from that. I also think that as fuel retailers would benefit a lot from that. Because I think that could potentially slash the price by a good 4 Rand, 5 Rand even. That's just my view.
It's a very difficult one, because we understand the why the sanctions are in place. And we understand there's a human thing behind this. I mean, there's a massive, it's a crisis and a war that's going on. I mean, I was reading a little bit more there was more news about a couple of the leaders visiting Ukraine yesterday. And it's heartbreaking to obviously see that the war just continues and continues, and no one knows when this is going to end. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of these other countries, they're also going to get to the point where they are kind of feeling like, what do we do next? Because they've got sanctions for a reason, and there's a human aspect and an understanding of why these things are in place. But at the same time now, there's a whole nother aspect of another human aspect of the pricing, how that's affecting people, how it's affecting their livelihoods. It's such a hard one, because no one can say they agree with what is going on. And I think South Africa's obviously remained very much neutral. And there's obviously a reason why they've remained neutral. But again, we're not politicians. Please do not become a politician, Sbonelo, because you will affect the business.
I'm considering joining the movement. So what is the second thing that could save us? If for whatever, some miracle happens and our crude oil falls below $80 a barrel, yeah? And the rand perhaps strengthens to somewhat around a 13, 14 rand mark.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see that rand strengthening. It's doubtful at this point. It's actually remained so strong throughout this last couple of years. It's been incredible to actually see how strong we've remained. With the Fed doing different changes and that on their side, it has affected us this past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We're starting to sound like economists. We did a presentation with the Nedbank economist. Well, we've been on roadshows. We're starting to sound just like an economist, so we might just start a movement in that as well.
I think so, yeah. So I think for us that would be great. I am trying to reach out to the minister. If most of you remember, there's one government official who said that if the rand falls, they will pick it up. So I need to reach out to them and say, the rand has fallen. Please do what you said you could do. And I don't know if she will be reachable at this point. But of course, the last thing that we think that could potentially save us is the easing up on taxes in South Africa. I think there's a lot that's been said on this, and lots of debates going on, even right now in Parliament. One of the things that perhaps we have an opportunity now to just explain to you, some of you read it in papers or saw it on TV, our view on road accident fund, because that was, I know it's quite a controversial one. We were obviously requested by the FRA to present to Parliament some 2 months ago on what measures could be put in place to try and curb the effects of rising petrol prices. And one of the proposals that we put together was consideration of scrapping the road accident fund from the price of petrol. So many people are not understanding what we're saying. We're not saying that there is no need for road accident fund, but we're saying that it is misplaced if it's put in the price of fuel. It's meant to cover somebody on the road. It's the road accident fund. It's not a fuel levy. There are many factors why we believe this is misplaced. One, it affects everybody. Everybody gets affected. The moment you put it on fuel, you're affecting everybody. You're affecting the price of bread, the price of milk. you're affecting the poorest of the poor because they now have to suffer the consequences of the direct cost of fuel. You know what I'm saying? So don't put it on fuel. It's not meant to be there. And secondly, you've got people that buy fuel for agricultural purposes. Some are just buying fuel to, they're not going to be on the road. They're just buying in a container, or containers for that matter, for mining. Huh? You know? You're buying a lot of diesel for mining purposes. There's no mine that's going to be on the road.
You're not going to have an accident.
No, you're not going to have an accident. And besides,
And a generator that's running.
a generator that's
can't
running.
have an accident and kill someone at the generator. The generator can't.
Exactly. So it's misplaced. That is really our point. It is misplaced. It should go and be with the road department somehow.
It's never made sense for all these years, but I don't think anyone's really questioned it as much.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's benefited many people. Yes, many people have benefited from it that were worthy recipients. But again, there were many people that were not worthy recipients, many people that have looted that money, and that it should not have come out of that money for that benefit.
You know, the Road Accident Fund CEO takes it as a personal attack on him when we state the obvious, the facts. All of you on the line here, perhaps you know someone who benefited unduly, or from this. I think someone is laughing here in here. I think they do know someone who benefited unduly from these claims, because there is so much fraud happening. So much fraud happening. You literally just fall on your bicycle and there is an attorney who says, no, I can help you claim from Road Accident Fund.
And there were a whole lot of people watching, so they were also part of it.
You know what I'm saying? So that's been looted. There are attorneys right now who do nothing else but Road Accident Fund claims. By the way, I read shocking statistics. I need to be careful here of my numbers, but don't quote me on my numbers. But it was something like, of the 40 million that they would have collected, only 10 million goes to the real beneficiaries, like people that broke their legs and arms. The 30 million is just goes to legal to attorneys. Now, I'm asking, who does this actually benefit? We pay for it, You pay 2.18 cents a litre. For every litre you put in, 2.18 cents goes to these people. Are they really using it for, for the real beneficiaries? Are they really getting the money? The question that's the question. So I think those are all the questions that we're starting to ask, and we believe that if you remove this 2.18 cents from the price of petrol, that could give a huge relief. And by the way, if you do the numbers, most of you probably are paying between 450, 500 rand a month just on Road Accident Fund. You're not aware of it, but you're actually paying about 500 rand a month. That's the insurance you're paying that, you may never claim. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I think it's going to be one that will obviously stay in circulation for quite a long time. And I think we've covered quite a lot of different things here, Sbonelo, and we've obviously wanted to give a bigger picture as to where the industry is currently at. What is happening in fuel retail? Fuel retail, I mean, it's in our blood. It's part of us. We love the industry. It's still an exciting industry. Every day is different. We're not sure whether you're going to walk out of this call and there's going to be some other crisis that's happened. But there could also be something else exciting that's happened, that all of a sudden there's 10 buses that came in that needed diesel and they all went into the shop and bought from the shop. But you know what? There's a lot of positive in the industry, but of course there's always going to be a lot of negative around the industry. That's naturally a lot of what happens in industry, but we wouldn't be at today if it was such a bad industry. But fuel retail really is to understand what your challenges are before you like land with a lot of those challenges in your laps. So as Sbonelo said, I think it's all about just sharing the knowledge, sharing what you read, sharing what you hearing, sharing what you're seeing in media, etc.
Yeah. So I think really for us was just to, just highlight these things for you, particularly those of you that are already running your sites, so that you become aware of these expenses and just try and make sure that you probably covered, and that you look after these expenses, because gradually they start, eating up on your margin and your profitability.
And keep part of a lot of these conversations that are happening. Your Fuel Retailers Association, keep part of that. There's a lot of surveys that come out. Keep abreast of them, because they need support too. So with us supporting them, they can support the cause in terms of, these fights that happen with DMRE, the fights that happen with all these organizations to manage the industry better and make sure that people are held accountable, really, at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And by the way, now you're talking about FRA, please do make sure that you are affiliated, you are a member of the FRA. Especially when you take over, sometimes you forget, it slips your mind and whatever. Please do make sure. If you're not sure how to go about it, drop us an email. Say, guys, I just want to make sure that I am a member of the FRA. There are lots of benefits with it. So just make sure that you do sign up to become a full member of the FRA. So we're going to play you a video now before we go for Q&A. So let's do the, are we guys ready? Can we play you a movie, guys, right? So we're going to play you a short movie, and
we'll do some Q&As after that.
Then we do Q&A after that, yeah?
Please don't bring the difficult questions, because they will be given to Sbonelo.
So how long is our video? 2 minutes?
Yeah.
2 minutes, okay.
Cool.
So 2 minutes video, then we come back for Q&A.
It's a new day and you're raring to go. Things to do, people to see, and work to be done. All you've got to do is knock out that Excel spreadsheet and it's a win. First though, answer that call, then another, and another call asking to help find a replacement for someone who's absent. Quickly log unpaid leave because of that absenteeism, and you're good to go. Next, you have to look at those new contracts, timesheets, and checking employee compliance to company policies and labor legislation. But stop, you now have to deal with those production targets, sick leave notes, pay queries, understaffing, overstaffing, leave applications, all flying at you from different data points. Look like a familiar picture? Fortunately, things don't have to be this way when you use PRP's cloud-based solution. Put simply, PRP takes on the mundane, administrative, and time-consuming tasks that take up so much of your employees' time and automates these, transforming you into the superhero you need to be for your organization. And whether you're an entrepreneur, small business, or a multinational, we will integrate your digital environment, automate processes, and provide you relevant information in real time on an exception basis. Through creating a unique, intelligent ecosystem, our cloud-based software platform, coupled with our experienced in-house product development and solution design capability, enables us to rapidly integrate your existing systems, helping your company accelerate your digital transformation strategy. And so enabling you to lead your organization remotely and over a widespread geographical footprint if necessary. So freeing you up to make more time to focus on listening to, supporting, and motivating your people, so they can develop their skills and collaborate from anywhere to transform your organization with enhanced performance management and communication abilities. Say hello to your new business superpower and give your people more time to focus on things that really matter. And we can do the same for you, delivering proven ROI and empowering your superhero team to take your business to extraordinary heights. Contact us today and unleash the superpowers of your people.
All right, so we're back from the commercials. We were just selling there, guys. I hope you buy. All right, cool. No, we love to just keep playing this video because, I mean, I've been in the industry for 15 years now, or 16, and things have changed quite a lot. And I actually had one of my sites completely burnt down. Had it not been for the online, or rather cloud services that we use for most things, I would have lost everything. But thankfully, we use all these systems. You don't have information, saved on your manual files and stuff like that. Everything is on these systems, so it really helps quite a lot.
And it's key to have the support. It's key to have the
Very,
support.
yeah.
The support is unbelievably important when you really need it. That's when you don't have it. So I think
Yeah.
But anyway, without
Questions?
without being too salesy, I think it's.
Are there
we're
questions?
loving hearing any questions? Yeah.
Comment, please read out for us.
Got one there, Jabulani. What is the comment?
Okay, there's a hand.
Hi, Jabulani.
Yes, how are you? Good morning.
Good.
Yes, sorry. I've got two questions here. Thank you so much for this opportunity as we are watching and we are growing. And by the way, I'm not in a business, but I'm so much interested as I even went to PetroConnect. But to cut it short, my two questions that are always ringing in my head: how to start this business and how much do I need to start? Even if I can start like 4 pumps, and I think Mr. Mbatha knows, because every time on Instagram, I always keep on following back to him, listening even when he's on this radio station. But I'm so interested in this business. So just these two questions: how to start this business, and how much do I need to start? Even a small one like 4 pumps, as I've said. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kumala, I think it's quite a dicey one. But I would have imagined we should have covered that during the readiness program. But just to give you very high level, so if you really want to, it depends, do you want to buy existing service station, you want to build a new one? If you're building a new service station, it can cost you anything between 10, 12, 20 million rand. It's quite expensive. Again, it doesn't mean that you need to go all that way. Sometimes you just get your license and you can have 4 pumps. You don't have to have expensive canopies and all these things. It really depends on your budget, eh? You can make it work with what you have, relatively speaking. So it's quite a difficult one. I can't tell you how much. It really, how long it's a piece of string. So it's quite a difficult one to answer. I don't know.
There's a lot of detail in it, Jabulani, and I think is obviously you've got to ask the question whether you're buying an existing service station or you're buying, the property and you're actually going to develop it. But developing takes time. Whether you're building a site that's got 4 pumps or 6 pumps or 8 pumps, your development cost is reasonably similar. Pumps, obviously, 2 pumps is not going to make a world of difference to the cost of the site. But yeah, you've got to, from a buying a site, it really all depends about volume more than how many pumps as well. So it's really all volume based, and one needs to understand what size site and how much capital you have. You need to have at least 20% unencumbered capital plus your stock. Stock is expensive now, obviously, but you've got to have that. And if you've got the property, that's a whole different conversation because you're going to be developing and you're going to have to pay towards the build of the site.
Sure. Okay, we've got another question. The Duzo, yes?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity and just opening our eyes on the industry. So we are living in a very frustrating time now. So we're very excited when we got an opportunity to own a service station. Few months down the line, the price is going up and the expenses are going up as well, and the profit is going down, which is very frustrating. So we're not even sure about the future of our businesses. So my question is, because obvious, we can try by all means to save to save expenses. Like Max said earlier, you can try to increase your GP just to cover some of the expenses that will be increased because of the price increase of fuel. And then another thing that I was thinking about is just to identify an opportunity that will make you at least have one sale or 1 liter or one sale at a shop, just to try to maximize your turnover. Obviously, the profit will grow as well. So my biggest frustration, my biggest concern on this one are our partners, like the oil companies. For example, my site is on a transit site. So in other words, it accommodates people who are traveling long distances. And then the shop that I have, it doesn't really talk to the LSM, especially like the people that are around the area. So the opportunity that I've identified is a convenience and a well-being and a proper cafe that can accommodate the customers that are traveling long distances, and that can actually speak to the LCM for the area where I'm trading in. But the concern is that the oil company or my partner does not see the opportunity that I see. So my question is, no, if I can put numbers, I think if I can get a proper convenience and a proper cafe, I can grow my volume by 30%. I can even grow my turnover, the shop turnover, by over 200%, because there's a great opportunity. I don't even have to identify it. It's just obvious. So the question is, how do we effectively put a pressure on a company to assist us on implementing the opportunity that we identify as dealers?
No, thanks for that question, Mr. Shazi. I think the first step that I would encourage you to do is to put those numbers together, right? I don't know. Your numbers seem quite ambitious, but maybe you know the area quite well. But put that study together. Put a nice cash flow projections. How much this would mean to your business. But always try and have two scenarios: your best case and your worst case scenario. Put that together and obviously send it to your territory manager and copy the right people. Once a month, keep following up and say, I just wanted to know, where are we with this? Have you given this some thought? What I have seen in this industry and how you work with these people is the baby that cries the loudest gets attention. So don't say I have sent it to them. Send it and keep making nuisance until they want to get rid of you, or rather just sort you out and not have to deal with this anymore. I think it's that. It's just difficult to, I'll be honest with you. It can be very frustrating as a dealer, especially when you know that you want to do this and you probably are not getting the support that you need. So, yeah, I don't know, Mark.
No, I think I share your sentiments. It's always a difficult one to do. We obviously seen a big change in terms of how expenses are managed now within this last couple of years, which no one could foresee. What's going to happen with the price of fuel, what's going to happen with volumes, what's going to happen with all the various factors that we've had to deal with. Oil companies on the other side are also reeling with a lot of the you know, the problems that they've had from COVID, floods, riots, all that sort of thing. So I think there's now going to be quite a toss-up as to how we get that over the line. Obviously, your partner is obviously going to be is going to need to find a way of partnering, because it's not an easy conversation to have. But I think Sbonelo is correct in saying you've got to engage. You've got to keep engaging. Make it a conscious effort to keep going to the right people. Don't, obviously following the hierarchy and following the necessary processes is necessary to maintain relationships. But at the end of the day, it's a difficult one to advise on because it's a much bigger conversation.
Yeah, Mark, you've actually done a very nice conversion in one of your sites, where you actually converted the shop to looking quite spanky. It's really, really great, and the turnover is starting to pay off. It's something I would have advised, because the investment really, it's substantial investment, but it pays for itself. But you need time. So if they were to come to you and say, look, you are not on plan, it's a much easier conversation, because I would have said to you, let's go to the bank, borrow the money, do the conversion yourself, invest yourself. I promise you, in 5 years, that business will actually pay itself back, and if not even more. So it's actually even better. It would be more profitable for you to just do your own conversion. Just be particular about, even if it's your own shop, but just treat it like it's franchise, and put all these nice look and feel, and just make sure that the customer experience is right, is great. You would actually see a lot more return on that.
Yeah, sure.
But unfortunately, you wouldn't want to do that, and then they come next year and they smash everything down, and they do their own spec, So it's quite a dicey one. Yeah. Hi, Sanjay.
Sanjay, that up, and then we'll go back to.
Sbonelo, I just wanted to make a comment. You were talking about deregulation, and just looking at the example that you mentioned, just for everybody to be aware, a station that's pumping 500,000 liters with the shop of about 1.5 is roughly about 15 million. That's what you would pay. So if you take the discounting you said 50 cents a liter, that's like 250,000 Rand a month, which is 3 million Rand a year. That business devalues then to 6 million Rand, because if you look at the 36-month EBITDA projection, you're losing EBITDA. So it's amazing what deregulation will do to the value of a business, especially the service station. So it's something that needs to be considered in these debates as well. So current dealers, although they believe they're in a strong point, when they want to sell their businesses, they're going to have to contend with that. The second comment I wanted to make is, you mentioned, I think there's a lot of talk about buying oil from Russia. The challenge we have is that our refineries are closing. So if we buy the oil and we get the oil, I mean, how do we resolve our problem?
Fine.
So those are just the two comments I wanted to make and add to the debate, should I say, ongoing debate.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. I think I couldn't have said it better. You're very spot on there. And again, you're raising a very crucial thing in South Africa. Guys, I can tell you now, we are in a crisis, right? We are in a crisis. It just has not made headlines yet. Our crisis is that we used to refine 70% of our fuel in South Africa, only import about 30%. Right now, we are refining about 30%, we're importing 70%. Engine refinery closed down, they're not opening. Sapref closed down. I hear in the background that there are talks of government buying Sapref. And I think for me, it would be the right move, because we have to refine in the country. We honestly can't rely on imports. So security of supply is going to be making headlines. Watch the space. Come next year, one of the biggest headline news that you're going to be hearing. Right now, we're talking all these that we're talking about now, but wait until next year, 2 years' time. We're going to be talking about security of supply. That's going to be our biggest hurdle, unless there are interventions to save SAPREF. We have to refine in the country.
How does one get around the unencumbered capital required by the oil companies? I can imagine how much funds are returned to people.
Very difficult question to answer, and why I say it's difficult to answer is obviously we don't govern the oil company policy as such. So from an oil company perspective, they obviously want to make sure a site is successful. From a cash flow perspective, with all these things like price change, with a lot of, I mean, service stations are cash flow hungry, and what I mean by that is that at the end of the day, there's a lot of money in and out all the time. There's, fuel that's costing over 700,000 rand a load now. That just one drop has to be, one cash pickup is missed, and you're in problems if you don't have enough cash that's circulating in that business. Obviously, there's a set methodology around the valuation of the service station, and when it comes to the funding model, our partners, Nedbank, have come around and given very good rates. But at the end of the day, you've got the changing prime rate, you've got interest increases, we've got obviously all these expense increases that we've been speaking to. They now need to make sure that that's going to work. Again, many of the financial institutions require the 20% unencumbered. We know that there are government institutions that would offer, unencumbered, or rather that they don't require the unencumbered capital. That can take a long period of time to come to fruition, but the oil companies themselves have been quite set on the 20% due to the fact that obviously we don't want to see businesses failing. Not to say that the business will fail, but the issue with it is that one is gearing that business, and be that a service station, be that any business. If you're gearing a business 100%, it has a huge potential to fail, but even not failing, it's going to put you on a hell of a lot of financial pressure without having the correct funding in that business. Because you're funding it over a period of time, you've got a set medium-term loan, you've got a set lease agreement, you've got certain expenses that have to be met every month. It's not a business where you can put in 100,000 rand, start up a business, and grow that business, where it turns from a 5 million rand business to a 100 million rand business. It's a very different business model. So I don't think we can treat it as a startup type of environment. We have to treat it as a business that you basically must treat it as though you're coming in and it's going to remain at that value. That's how you treat it. But obviously, you're not coming in with the premise that that's how you're going to remain. You obviously want to grow the business and grow the profitability. I don't know.
One of the things that we have started pushing very hard is partnerships.
Absolutely.
Because we're trying to address exactly the same concern.
Absolutely.
A lot of people believe that because I've only got 800,000, I've only got 1 million rand, that it means that's the end of it. But usually when I do the trainings, readiness program, I often ask people, how much have you got? You say, I've got 1 million, got 1 million, got 1 million. The three of you are able to buy a relatively bigger service station than you could afford on your own to buy a 200,000 pumper, 250 pumper with your 1 million. Now, and I often say to them, we really don't have to like each other, okay? We just have to tolerate each other for 5 years, okay? So 5 years, I tolerate you, tolerate each other for 5 years. We buy the service station, it's 12 million rand, we come together. After 5 years, I've really had enough of you. You buy me out. See, the business was 12 million. I only put 1 million. You put 1 million and somebody put 1 million. And 3 of us, it's 12. In year 5, by the way, maybe the business is now 15 million. Now you buy me out, I take 5 million rand out of the business because that's what my equity is worth, right? 5 million rand, now I don't need you. My next service station, I'm on my own. So I just think that people need to rethink this whole partnership thing, because sometimes we just want to start on our own. I don't want a partner. I don't want a partner. But how long, how far is this going to take you? And you find that sometimes by just partnering up with somebody that you don't have to like, I have to say this because people think that you must partner with people you like. I don't have to like you. I just have to work with you. I just have to tolerate you for 5 years. If I've had enough of you for 5 years, then you buy me out or I buy you out. Then I move on my own. And that's really how you can make or leverage on partnerships. So we're in a big drive right now, and we can assist you. We, from legal perspective, from financial control perspective, and everything like that to make sure that your partnerships work.
I wanted to just build on that, and I think that's something we've looked very closely at, and even in terms of looking at the values of the two partners and the proposition that they bring to the business, because it isn't just meeting someone, shaking their hand, and saying, "I'm your partner now." And or that you just have money and the two have to be together. That's not how it is. So at the end of the day, I think from a perspective of the partnership, one has to look at the values and look at the personality assessments. That is something now that we are big on, and we've been developing quite a significant model there that we're going to be quite excited to bring to everyone, or bring to the market within the coming weeks. And that really looks at a lot more around the values of the person and can we actually work together. Then there's the capital. How do we put together? Because it could even mean 750,000 putting together. Let's start on a smaller site. Let's build from there. We've got a smaller site. Maybe then a bigger site can come around. Can we generate enough profits there to fund another one? The bank can use that site to look at funding another site. So there's many other ways that you can do it. But yeah, that's obviously we've zoned in quite a lot there, but there's quite a lot that we're doing.
Look, I mean, there's endless opportunities when it comes to partnerships. But I see there's a Nongoko. Okay. Hi, Nongoko. Okay. Nongoko doesn't seem
Morning,
there.
everyone. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. Okay, I had a question on something that you did not touch on. My question is about the illegal retailing. When we had a meeting in Johannesburg on FRA, they did talk about the illegal retailing. How is it going on so far? Thank you.
Okay. So, I mean, Reggie from the FRA has been really very vocal about, illegal trading in the sector. Basically, what is happening is this. There's a lot of wholesale licenses that are flying around everywhere because the department has just been issuing these wholesale licenses. It's very easy to find a wholesale license. So what you've then seen is more especially in the sector where people are running what we refer to as white sites, then you're finding people buying directly as wholesaler, and they also trading as retailer, basically what we would refer to as double dipping. So you're enjoying your wholesale margin as well as the retail margin. Because of that, you're buying diesel at a wholesale margin. It's very difficult for most retailers like us to compete on that diesel price because we're not buying it at the same price, even if you're buying from the same oil company. Because as a wholesaler, if I go to the oil company, I am not buying it at the same price as they sell to us as retailers. if you get what I'm trying to say. It's been a big, big issue. One of the oil brands, I know their dealer council were trying to take on the oil company, trying to challenge the oil company. Why are they selling their diesel cheaper to wholesalers than they sell to retailers? Because, again, the uneven playing field. So retailers are not able to compete. This guy down the road is selling diesel for 70 cents cheaper. As a retailer, that's your whole margin. Is gone. You can't even compete. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do from where we stand. It's only the DMRE that can do something about it. All I can say is that if you do notice something like that happening, your only thing to do is inform the FRA, but also report it to the DMRE. That's the only, unfortunately, that's the only way you can do. Yeah. Hi, Najma. It was
Hi,
lovely
good
seeing you
morning.
in Cape Town.
It was lovely seeing you too and finally meet you guys in person. Thank you very much for this. I found it very interesting. I've just got two questions. The one question is when we are thinking about partnerships, right? Um, I just want to check whether the unencumbered amount of cash that is required is still 20% in the event, and I've been told that it is different if the two partners or one of the partners are not black. I'm sorry to raise this, but this is the world that we're living in. So I
Sure.
want to know whether if sorry, so I just want to know whether that your contribution is still 20% if, because I have a white lady that we are looking at partnering. So I'm going to call on you for advice and assistance on that partnership. And then the other question is, I am now just waiting for my retail license. And I just wanted to know, I know at the event where we met, you mentioned that you people are working on it. Is there any progress? Are we able to get licenses sooner? How is that going? And is there anything that I can do to kind of also get my license earlier
Sure.
than, yeah.
So
Thank you.
maybe Nigel, let me deal firstly with the sort of the partnership one. In terms of unencumbered capital, it would remain at the same as long as there's a majority from a transformational or from a BE ownership perspective. So yeah, that wouldn't be that now there's a difference in that. If there's going to be a weighting in obviously a white person's favor, or then they're going to have to look at that, because that's going to now be a non-BE deal. So if you're talking about it through the funder, if we're talking about it from an oil company perspective, no, that 20% would remain the same. Most oil companies are applying that 20%. In terms of the licensing, certainly from a PetroConnect perspective, we've made some really great strides on licensing. It's been tough. It's been a real journey. We have been working very closely with DMRE in order to kind of fast track a lot of these licenses. We are getting this down to around 4 months as a turnaround time. We're positive we're going to bring that down further. But I think the key thing is that we have to just keep chasing up, making sure all documents are done correctly from the beginning. There were a hell of a lot of delays during COVID. They seem to have got through quite a lot of that. But of course, through our interventions that we've undergone with the DMRE and that we've dealt with, from a higher level at DMRE, it seems to have seen good traction. And we should, going forward, start seeing that coming forward. Najma, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. The other thing that I was also told, and I contacted I'm not sure who I spoke to, but it was someone in the industry where they mentioned that also if it is a non-white seller selling to a non-white buyer, then also the 20%. So have I been misinformed on that as well then? Because there was a site that I was interested in, and this guy said that also won't apply. So it is across the board 20%.
In most cases, it's
Most
across
cases,
the
yeah.
board.
Okay.
It obviously depends on oil company policy. The funder has a policy, and you obviously have to make sure that your oil company and funder are on the same light.
Okay.
20% is, from a policy perspective, is there, but there's a reason why that is policy, because that's obviously there for the sustainability of the business. But from a white and non-white, in many cases, the funders are not looking. I mean, there's, as we understand, and Nedbank has a transformation deal that they are looking at 20%, but that obviously needs to be in the hands of 51% plus in terms
Yeah.
of BEE.
Okay.
Najma,
Thanks
also
very
just
much,
answering
guys.
your other
Yeah.
question, you did have a question on the chat. I just want to quickly go up to it. You asked a question about turnover, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether when we upgrade, do
Yeah.
you have an
Yeah.
average?
Yeah. So I'd rather look at it from volumes and turnover perspective. Your turnover, I'm just trying to remember the exact numbers now, but if I recall exact numbers here, it was sitting at around the 10 to 15% mark in terms of that increase across the two. Does depend on the site, does depend on where the site is situated at and how different that shop is going to be in terms of the offering and what it's bringing to the market. But ordinarily, you should be able to see that increase. When it comes to a lot of the sites that are having to go through upgrades, and a lot of that is happening post the sale process, and obviously being required of new dealers, etc., there needs to be support for that extra income, because what you're paying on is the history of that site. So it's not that a seller can now take a knock because they're going to sit with the buyer's now going to have to pay for an upgrade. Your increase there should be an increase in profits, not purely just to make it look pretty. To make it look pretty, all good and well, but we can't just make something look pretty. The numbers need to add up. And if the bank is going to need to support for extra funding, that needs to be there. So otherwise, you're obviously going to sit with a hell of a lot more from an unencumbered capital perspective.
Can you also just drop me your reference number for your DMRE license? I just want to check with the team. I'll see if I can follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
What
with your company name, hey? So the company name and the reference number.
Yes, will do. Thank you, Sbonelo.
Thanks. Okay. Was there another question?
Take how many more questions can we take?
No, we've run over.
So we've run over time.
Nazir. Okay, I think I saw the comment from Nazir around changing in policy now that we are advertising outside of the alumni. So Nazir, the issue that we're having is that sometimes we're not getting enough traction from the alumni, so they're picky. Well, let me say you. So you guys are picky. And because we don't have the luxury of time to wait for you guys to, you find one site, we advertise one site, we have 30 applicants. We advertise another site, we have one, if not none. So where we don't have enough people, then we have no choice but to go in a broader market out there. So
and I
that's
think
the reason.
The key thing is as well that some sites are very urgent in terms of appointment. There's many sites that are going through some urgent, or rather changes that they're needing to happen very urgent. So there will be that odd case that we would have to do that and take that decision, which obviously PetroConnect would take.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last question from Adele is the unencumbered assets always supposed to be cash or property? This is not possible for guys, even with partnerships making entry even more difficult. What about insurance?
Interesting.
It's a tricky one because let's just explain what is the purpose, okay? Because sometimes I think we miss the real purpose of this unencumbered, right? So the unencumbered is not really imposed just to make it a burden for people not to be able to afford. But the unencumbered, so let me take it back. I I was I came into this industry via a transformation initiative, right? And at the time, we were 10. We all got service stations. No, not all 10. I think about 7 or 8 of us that got service stations. 2 decided not to continue. That was 16, 17 years ago. Of those people, all of us got service stations, fairly good service stations, by the way. But nah, I don't know what's the percentage, but I'm the only one that survived out of that entire group of people. There were learnings that were taken from this, right? I was lucky that I bought an NTI, meaning it was a brand new service station. So the price that I paid for my very first service station was fairly okay compared to the guys that were buying from other dealers. So if you look at the difference, then is those guys were highly geared. Some of the reasons, it's not the only reason, but they were highly geared, meaning they were like 90%, if not 100% loans. As a result, the cash flows just could not support the business for 100% funding. So that's why now you see that in this new transformation drive, it has since been revised to say 100% funding just doesn't seem to work. So it's not really a prohibitive move. How do we stop these people from buying? No. It's mainly a sustainability move. How do we make sure that when they come in, they're a lot more sustainable? And one of the reasons was the 100% gearing just puts them at a much more riskier situation. And so let's rather put some balance in this. We started, for example, one of the oil companies, we had a 90-10 split. So you could put 10% own contribution and 90%. But when we put these on our cash flows, we saw that it was tough to make this sustainable over a 5-year period. So we negotiated with the oil company to make it 7 years. 90% gearing at 7 years worked perfectly fine. But the oil company then changed to 5 years. Then we said 5 years, it's got to be 20%. So it's just that, just playing with the numbers here. So I want you guys to understand it at a much more broader perspective and very objective perspective.
Questions, last questions.
Do we need business plan if we don't have funds? Any referrals just to avoid COVID?
Jabulani, I'm just trying to understand your question a little bit better there in terms of needing a business plan. I mean, a business plan, if it is going to be, consultant or anyone helping with it, obviously there would be a charge. But I'm not sure if you're referring to buying a service station and now not or needing a business plan for a site and any referrals for that. Sorry, I'm a little bit grey on that one. You could unmute your mic if you want to explain that question a little bit better.
Okay, so was there
Tammy,
something else?
Tammy's unmuted. Maybe Tammy's got something to say.
Tammy wanted to say hello to us.
No, I don't have anything to say. Sorry about that. Hello, anyway, Mike and Sbonelo.
Yes. Yes. All right.
She's sending us
so
some
much,
unencumbered
Chris.
capital. She's sending us
Thank you so
unencumbered.
much.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, I think we've
over time, yeah.
way over time, And I think for us, it's just to thank you guys, and we do hope that this was worth your morning. And thank you for tuning in this morning, and really appreciate all your support. Remember, we're here. So if you're needing guidance, you're needing assistance or whatever, do reach out to us. It's not only Mark and I. I know you always see us, the two of us. We have a team of 30 people in this business, and they are all specialists. We're bringing in a very senior legal attorney to also just assist you with agreements and all that. We're bringing in very senior accountants to also help you with your just making sure that your books, aligned, and SARS and all those kind of things. So there's quite a lot. You would have seen that we've been on a hiring spree, right? So we actually putting adding a lot of people here just to assist and support you. So I'm just saying this so that you don't always think that it's always Sbonelo or Mark that can assist you. There's really a big team behind us. We're just big talkers, but those guys do the work.
Absolutely. And I think, please, guys, just obviously if you're struggling with something or struggling to get somewhere, of course, you can always escalate. But I think we obviously trust the team as well. But if you are battling, just reach out. And if there's any particular point that you want us to discuss, maybe because this is every 2 months, there is an alumni session in the other month. So there's a session every month, but the alumni sit for that, and retailers that are current. So many of you on this line will sit in that session as well. But in terms of the webinar, this is open to anyone. Feel free to send it on to others, but also feel free to let us know any topics that maybe you feel would be of really deep interest to you, and then you feel that maybe deep interest to others. Not only incoming retailers, current retailers, maybe even just stakeholders in the industry, because this is open to every stakeholder, because it's about everything in this industry. It's not purely about it's affecting all the retailers, but a lot of what we speak about affects every stakeholder in the industry. But we've really appreciated your time. We know we've gone over a little bit in the Q&A, and yeah, really thank you so much for being part of today.
Have a great day further.
Have a good one.
The core of our service is handling all your back office needs. These range from training, technical integration, accounting, stock audits, flagging of unknowns and potential threats to your service station, document storage, monthly reporting, payroll, rostering, and annual review services, and other statutory requirements. When using external accountants, your accounts are generally only available after a month. Until then, you have no idea what they look like. With us, you have a dedicated full-time financial controller who will be updating your accounts daily, so you are in control of your business all the time, giving you the power to make changes and be responsive through whatever challenge your business may face. As we have learned, the ability to react is paramount to your service station's future.